The sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden hue over the 5-acre plot of land that Henry Davis had poured his heart into. Rows of tomatoes, peppers, and zucchinis stretched across the soil, their leaves rustling in the evening breeze. For Davis, a retired high school biology teacher, this farm was more than a retirement project, it was a sanctuary. But as he knelt to inspect a wilting carrot top, he sensed the shadows of conflict looming. The Maple Creek Estates, a gated community that bordered his land, had been encroaching on his peace. Their pristine lawns and strict aesthetic rules clashed with his vision of a working farm. Little did he know, this clash would ignite a war that would test his resilience, unite a community, and expose the rot beneath the surface of suburban order. Chapter 1: The First Harvest. Henry Davis had always been a man of patience. After 30 years of teaching, he'd saved every penny to buy this slice of heaven. The land, zoned agricultural since the 1960s, had once been part of a larger dairy farm. Now, it was his. He'd spent months preparing the soil, planting heirloom seeds, and installing irrigation systems. His dream was simple: grow organic produce, sell at local markets, and live out his days in quiet harmony with the earth. But Maple Creek Estates, a development of luxury homes that had sprung up around his property, saw things differently. The Homeowners Association, HOA, led by the formidable Eleanor Whitfield, viewed Davis's farm as a blight. To them, his sunflowers were weeds, his compost bins hazards, and his very existence a threat to their manicured paradise. Their first confrontation came on a sweltering July afternoon. Eleanor, clad in designer sunglasses and a crisp linen suit, stormed onto Davis's property. "You can't grow food here," she sneered, her voice dripping with disdain. "This isn't some country bumpkin neighborhood." Davis wiped his hands on his overalls and stood his ground. "This land's been a farm for over 50 years, ma'am. I reckon it'll stay one." Eleanor's face flushed. "You're violating 6 HOA guidelines. Remove these crops, or face consequences." Davis chuckled. "My property's zoned agricultural. Check your maps." But Eleanor wasn't bluffing. 3 days later, an official notice appeared on his door: remove all agricultural activities or face $100 per day fines. Chapter 2: The Paper Trail. Davis's kitchen table became a war room. He spread out property deeds, zoning maps, and HOA bylaws. The documents were clear: his land was exempt from HOA rules. He sent certified letters to Eleanor, the county clerk, and the zoning board. But Eleanor retaliated, escalating fines and sending landscapers to inspect his property. Security footage captured her crew trampling crops, stealing heirloom tomatoes, and slashing irrigation lines. Davis's calm demeanor began to crack. "This isn't about aesthetics," he muttered to his lawyer, Sarah Chin. "They want my land." Sarah, a fiery civil rights attorney with a soft spot for underdogs, nodded. "They're testing you, Henry. If you back down, they'll bulldoze this place." Chapter 3: The Theft. The breaking point came on a Tuesday morning. Davis returned from the farmer's market to find Eleanor and her cronies loading his produce into trucks. "Stop," he shouted, filming them with his phone. Eleanor smirked. "You're harvesting our community's weeds. Consider it a public service." Thomas Jenkins, the HOA treasurer, bit into a $6 Cherokee purple tomato. Tastes like nuisance." Davis's hands shook as he called 911. Officer Martinez arrived just as Eleanor's crew sped off with $2,000 worth of crops. "They're untouchable," he muttered, citing the HOA's influence. But Sarah wasn't deterred. "Time to hit them where it hurts," she said. "We're suing." Chapter 4: The Media Storm. Local reporter Jenny Kim smelled a story. Her exposé, HOA tyranny or farmers' rights, went viral. Neighbors who'd once scorned Davis began visiting his farm stand, slipping him notes of support. "Eleanor's done this before," whispered Mrs. Rodriguez, a retired nurse. Last year, she had the Petersons' rose garden torn up for noncompliance. Eleanor fought back, vandalizing Davis's "trespassers pay $50 per item" sign and spreading lies about biohazards. But the tide was turning. When Davis installed a community garden sign, Maple Creek residents flooded the HOA's inbox with demands for transparency. Chapter 5: The Courtroom Siege. The trial lasted 3 grueling weeks. Eleanor's lawyer argued Davis's farm depressed property values, but Sarah dismantled their case. She presented videos of Eleanor's vandalism, emails between Thomas and the county commissioner, and a petition signed by 200 residents. Judge Thompson's ruling was unequivocal: this was theft, pure and simple. The HOA was ordered to pay $443,500 in damages, and Eleanor faced criminal charges. Chapter 6: Reaping What They Sowed. In the aftermath, Maple Creek's residents rallied around Davis. Former foes became allies, volunteering at his farm and launching a community garden. Eleanor fled town, her reputation in ruins, while Davis's land earned protected status. As Davis surveyed his fields, now thriving with pumpkins planted by children who'd never seen a seed grow, he smiled. "Turns out," he mused, "the best way to fight a bully is to grow something beautiful in their shadow." Epilogue: The Last Tomato. Years later, Maple Creek Farms became a symbol of resilience. The community garden flourished, and Davis, now in his 70s, mentored young farmers. Eleanor's name was whispered as a cautionary tale, a reminder that greed and power could never outgrow the roots of justice. On his deathbed, Davis penned a final letter to the town. "Protect the land. Protect each other. And never let a tomato go to waste."